Hey, how's it going? I'm Troubadour, and this is how I do my sidechain routing. So here we have my default template, and then within here we have two groups. We have drums, we have sidechained. Within my drum group here, I have a drum rack I call kick and snare, and this is kind of where I keep kicks and snares. Here I have a main kick, and then a grace kick, and it's just kind of a short grace note kick. A snare or a clap or something. Here I have a snare. And so these three drums are triggering shaper box on the sidechained group here. I have three instances of it, one for the main kick, one for the main snare, and one for the grace note. They are all using different shapes corresponding to the different sound type that is triggering them. And I can use this to turn the mix down on all of the shaper boxes at once. So here we have the loop no sidechain. So it sounds okay, but the transients are getting a little bit covered up. So now I'm going to turn on my sidechain group. And I'm going to bring this in gradually, and you'll hear the ducking start to begin. So that's basically how I handle it. I just have one sidechain group, and then everything goes in there. Typically, if I'm working with a vocal and it's like a main vocal, then I will have it in its own group outside of the sidechain group. And then if I really have to sidechain it, I'll do it more gently in its own group. For instrumental stuff, I usually just have one sidechain group with three instances being triggered by three different main types of drum. Now the kick ducking shape looks like this. I have the upper band here being ducked for this long, and then the lower band being ducked for a bit longer. And I've found through experimentation that this tends to sound more transparent than using one entire shape. So doing multi-band tends to make it a little bit less obvious and still allow the drum to come through clean. And I've applied that same concept to the snare, except that you can see that the snare, when I click on this low band here, it's not doing any ducking. And then on the mid, it's ducking it, and the highs ducking it. And so that's how I handle the snare shape. And then for the grace note shape, it is similar to the kick, and this is just a much shorter ducking shape, so that the grace note, which typically comes directly before another hit, is typically pretty short. So if you have a really big ducking shape, it tends to sound kind of awkward. So that's why I have a dedicated ducker just for the grace notes. If you watch the Mr. Build tutorial, you'll see that he uses Ableton external instrument to send MIDI to the sidechained group and then shaper box. And since I grouped these and labeled each group kick, snare, and grace note, now when you look in the external instrument secondary drop-down window, you can see that you have a selection kick, snare, or grace. So I can then specify which shaper box to send the MIDI trigger to, and that's that. And the other cool thing about this setup is, say I want a secondary kick, so I could actually duplicate this whole kick. This external instrument will still trigger, so you can have multiple instances of external instrument sending MIDI triggers to the same ducker, and they will both trigger it. So you're not limited to only having one trigger per instance. You can actually have multiple triggers per instance of shaper box, which is quite quite useful. And I almost always will duplicate my main kick, duplicate my grace note, duplicate my snare, and then I'll have another section where I like switch up the drum kit, for instance. And what's nice about that is I don't have to reroute anything. It just automatically goes as long as I duplicate the drum cells. You know, you can make drum racks with that already built in and so on. So I think that covers it. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Until next time, I'm Troubadour. Thanks. Oh, hey, I almost forgot to let you know. The template that I showed you in the video is available for free in the link down below. So go grab it if you're interested in trying it out.